What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex. I'm joined by Tyler, and welcome to our Days Gone community series. A community series that's going to be airing on our channel every single Thursday, leading up to Days Gone releasing on the PlayStation 4, exclusively on the PlayStation 4, on April 26th. We're very, very excited for this game. We're going to be giving the game away when the game actually comes out. We're going to be doing many videos on the game once the game is out. But we wanted to do a kind of mini community series, a thing that we've kind of been doing for a lot of different things, movies and games, for the past couple years on our channel, and we wanted to focus this on Days Gone. We want to talk a little bit about the game itself, and then just kind of discussions of the game, of the future of the game, and we want to start it off with a little kind of two-parter of The Last of Us Part 2. Both of these are obviously major games, very important for Sony, very important for PlayStation, and we want to do, in this video, we want to talk about how Days Gone could hurt The Last of Us Part 2, talk about maybe the strengths of Days Gone, and how that would influence people's thoughts and what people think of The Last of Us Part 2. And then next week, we want to talk about how The Last of Us in general, The Last of Us and The Last of Us Part 2 could hurt Days Gone. So we're going to kind of compare two of Sony's biggest names at the moment. You know, Days Gone has gone through quite a lot of stuff, and this is how I want to start this video. Days Gone's gone through a lot of ups and downs, and I've talked about it on different videos just talking about the game. It was hidden for a long time. A lot of people didn't have a very good opinion on this game for a very long period of time. It was only, I would say, only up until recently when they had the three-part trailers, kind of the making of, that people really started to turn around. And now we've seen from the comments of PlayStation videos in general, people are very excited for Days Gone, and we are one of them. We are very excited for this game. The question is, they have another zombie game, The Last of Us Part 2, made by Naughty Dog, coming out eventually, hopefully by the end of this year, if not maybe next year. They're very similar games, and they're also very different. Obviously, they both involve zombies. The mechanics, the gameplay mechanics of these games are very similar, but there are a lot of things that are different, and there's a lot of things, and Tyler will explain, that could be present in Days Gone that maybe people will want to see in The Last of Us Part 2 that just aren't going to be there because of the different styles of games. So again, this is what we're going to talk about in this video. We're going to talk about what in Days Gone, what's going to happen in Days Gone, or the mechanics, the story, the characters that could end up making people say, you know what, The Last of Us Part 2 isn't as good as we thought it could be, because Days Gone kind of brought it down a little bit. So Tyler, what do you think about that?
So in Days Gone, if you didn't know, which you might have already known, there's multiple regions, kind of like Red Dead Redemption. It's something that a lot of these open world games do, mainly because when you're in an open world, if it all looked the same all the time, it would kind of get a little bit boring. So it makes sense, there's not really going to be cities or anything like that, not that we're aware of, maybe little neighborhoods or something, but what they're doing is there's different regions on the map that have different, almost, I'm just calling them like season type weather. So there's going to be regions that have snow, there's going to be regions that have heavy rain, and then there's obviously regular regions that just, it's sun or whatever. But these regions, again, I'm calling them like seasons kind of, because seasons stands more out like for weather type stuff, at least for me. So with these seasons, it actually changes how you're going to play Days Gone. So with the heavy rain, the ground's going to be more wet. There's going to be mud. It's going to be harder to run in. It's going to be harder to ride your bike in. You're going to skid. So it'll slow you down. So that kind of stuff will make it a whole lot harder when you're trying to get away from like a zombie horde. The snow will make you move slower and very, similar but different. So it'll make you move slower. You're not going to be as quick on the bike. So all of that kind of stuff, it just changes how you have to play the game. You have to kind of adjust your strategy depending on where you are, which I like that a lot. And the reason I'm saying that is in The Last of Us, that's obviously a more linear, it's still slightly open, but more linear than like God of War, the new God of War. They do have seasons in a way, because in The Last of Us, if you remember, towards the end of the game, there was snow, and then that's when you play as Ellie with the bow and arrow. Did that really change how you play the game, though? Not really. So there is a difference when you have a game like The Last of Us, when it's a more story-driven, linear-type experience, where it's kind of like, although, don't get me wrong, I love The Last of Us. That's still probably, well, no, God of War was really, really good. So that's definitely, I don't know, it's in my top 5, maybe it's in my top 3 games of all time. So I do love The Last of Us, so don't take anything I'm saying as like I don't like The Last of Us. But when you're dealing with a game like The Last of Us, although it's that story and it's an amazing story, it does kind of feel like I'm doing this to get to this other point of the game, in the story. Where a game like Days Gone, although there is story, and it's probably going to be, if we have the story trailers to base it off of, it's probably going to be a pretty decent story. And we know from PlayStation hitting it out of the park with God of War, Spider-Man, Horizon, all of these games have been fantastic with the story, so I assume Days Gone won't be any different. But it's still an open-world game, and it's a rather large open-world game, and there's going to be survival-type tactics in it. So right there, it makes it a little bit different than The Last of Us. And these type of things, the world, not just the enemies that you're facing, but the world that you're surrounding yourself in, when you're playing Days Gone, it's going to change the way that you play. Where The Last of Us, maybe this will happen in part 2, but we haven't really seen all that much so far. And again, because it's that linear type game, it really won't. It'll change a little bit of the experience, but it's kind of like we're outside and maybe there's snow, so things are a little bit different, but now we're moving inside. So anything really inside is going to be very similar to any other time that you're inside. Does that make sense? Where something like Days Gone, if you're in this region and it's raining and it's really raining and there's mud everywhere and you're getting chased, it's going to be pretty difficult. And if you end up getting into that snowy area, it's going to be different, but still difficult, but in a different way. So it is very much the experience of playing it is very different. And because the genre is so similar, I have a feeling, this is just me, but I have a feeling that people are going to enjoy these different elements that are in Days Gone that really, truly changes up how you play the game. It's nothing like groundbreaking. Well, I shouldn't say that because we haven't played it. Maybe it is. It doesn't sound like it's anything majorly groundbreaking. There has been games that have had different seasons and it's affected how you play. But I have a feeling that with the zombies and all that kind of stuff, I do have a feeling that people, when they play The Last of Us Part 2, I do think there's going to be things that are in Days Gone, and those are one of them, where people are like, you know what, I do kind of wish that we had these elements where you have to change up how you play, how you're going to survive in The Last of Us. It still could be story-driven. It could still be slightly a linear experience, but how you go about playing... and don't forget, Naughty Dog's always kind of been good about, like, well, you can go this way, you can go that way, you can go up, you can craft this item. So there are different ways that you can go about things. Alex won't go about something the same way that I would. But to add another layer to that, now if you bring in the environment that changes it up, now that really changes up how you're playing that game. And I think that's what's going to be missed in The Last of Us when you're going from Days Gone to The Last of Us, because most people, and I may myself, play The Last of Us remastered on PS4 right before Part 2 comes out, but some people won't. Maybe some people just don't own it. I do, but maybe what people will play right before is, again, and it all depends on when The Last of Us Part 2 comes out. Maybe some people will play Days Gone right before it, and then they go to that, and they're like, you know what, this is kind of different, and I kind of miss some of these features. And I wouldn't be surprised. I really wouldn't. So it's just something to think about, I think.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And you can look at it two different ways. And we're kind of taking this video, this approach on the whole, what will Days Gone do that I think could, or what we think would influence The Last of Us Part 2, and why we think, that could maybe hurt it a little bit. Next week, we're going to be talking about the reverse of what makes The Last of Us special that could hurt Days Gone. So, you do have to think about, in terms of, we're not attacking either one of these games. We're very, very excited for Days Gone, and we absolutely adore for The Last of Us. But I agree with Tyler. In Days Gone, there's going to be a lot there. And we've seen a lot of things about this game. We've seen a lot of people that have played they've handled this game very differently. A lot of people, they invite a lot of gaming journalists out, and they played like 4 or 5 hours of this game, and the views of this game ranged in those, in that test. A lot of people said that it was a fantastic game, that it was one of the more fun games, or even people's game of the year, even though they only played a couple hours of it. And also some people said that it was just a generic game. And that's going to, we'll have to see what when the game actually comes out. But in terms of the mechanics they're doing, are some of them similar to The Last of Us? Yes. But at the same time, like Tyler said, in terms of the open world, they are doing so many different things, and they're trying out so many different things, that I think if you play Days Gone, just the feel of being in the moment with these zombie hordes coming at you, and the urgency, and the fact that you're not always going to be able to defeat them, you're going to have to run away, and side missions and main missions and taking over bandit camps and all this stuff, there's going to be a different feel to this game than in The Last of Us. And if you go from this game to The Last of Us Part 2, you may be saying, well, you know what? I love The Last of Us. I love The Last of Us Part 2, but there is something about the feel of Days Gone that I wish was in here. These mechanics, maybe the actual elements of outside, the actual season changings. I'm sure there's going to be some things. And, I think in terms of Sony games, it's actually not a bad problem to have at all, where one game in the Sony portfolio has something that's like, you know what, this game does this, this, and this so amazing, and then you go to the next game, you say, well, this game does these 3 things amazingly, but I would like it to also do what the other game did. And I understand not all the games are the exact same, so you can't have 2 games that are different from each other. They're not gonna have the specialty in the same thing. But I think it's a good problem to have, and I think it's a good thing. And Tyler and I were talking about this right before we recorded this. It's a good thing for Days Gone to hurt The Last of Us a little bit. And I don't mean hurt like, I don't want The Last of Us to sell less because of it. I don't want people to despise The Last of Us. But it's okay to say, I wish The Last of Us had these things about Days Gone, because that means you're having other games challenge these newer games, and you constantly want that. Sony is a company that's got so many really amazing first-party studios and have so many amazing first-party games that you want to take the element. That's why they do these tours. Kojima has gone around and looked at all of these games. He's probably seen Horizon Zero Dawn 2 at this point. You want these developers from the studios you own to be able to talk to each other, to be able to look at the other games and say, you know what, that is way better than our game in terms of that mechanic. We want to maybe use that. And I think that's definitely, I think Sony Bend at some point talked to Naughty Dog, because a lot of these things do look very similar in terms of like the crafting wheel, which I want to talk about in next week's video. I think they all take elements from each other's games, and that's good. You want to build the best game possible, and when you're all owned by the same company, it seems pretty fair to talk to each other and kind of learn from each other. So I think it's good. I hope Days Gone does things better in some respects than The Last of Us Part 2. I hope we look at The Last of Us Part 2 and say, this is a phenomenal game, but I wish they had a couple things Days Gone did, and then we can put that in The Last of Us Part 3. That's what I hope for all of these games. I think that's how you make the best game possible. But, those are just our thoughts. Again, we're not bashing either of these games, but let us know in the comments below, guys. What do you think? Do you think Days Gone will hurt The Last of Us Part 2, and how do you think that'll end up happening? Let us know. Make sure you guys subscribe to our YouTube channel, Podcast Now. Hit the bell icon so you guys are notified when all of these videos go up. And again, these Days Gone Community Series videos go up every single Thursday on our channel, leading up to Days Gone releasing on the PS4 on April 26th. We'll have videos. We'll have a giveaway of the game when it actually comes out, and we'll see you guys for next week's video.